The first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
Welcome to another episode of the Grip Show. I have Vince Broderick with me here today, from Vermont. And have you always been from Vermont? Just curious on that one.
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
funnily enough, I'm a 12th generation Vermonter, so we've been here.
Okay.
My family's been here way too long, but yeah, always based in
Okay.
Vermont.
And I wasn't sure if you had moved there, if that's where you had trained. So located in Vermont, and for this year's Grip Sport International Regionals, that's where the Northeastern Regional Championship was held. So really, Vince, I guess if you wanted to, you could kind of just break down maybe what led to you kind of wanting to host that regional championship, or whether that's just kind of getting into the sport, starting to compete a lot more the last couple of years, whatever route you want to take, and then kind of just lead up into the choice to host and kind of put an event in that area, and then we'll get into all the other details and how it turned out, after.
Yeah,
But
no,
just a little intro.
Yeah, sounds good. So, kind of a background, I guess I'd say, competitively in strongman. I've been doing that for a number of years. And then I think it would be 2023, I started first getting into like actual grip competitions and participating in those. And then in 2024, hosted a couple events up here, mainly some of the multi-venue events, some of the super series for arm lifting and the King Kong for under GSI. And when the call went out about this idea of doing regionals, I thought it was a great idea. So I wanted to support it, in whatever way I could. And I've promoted strongman events in the past as well. So kind of just figured I'd throw my hat in the ring and see who else was interested in hosting, and see if we got selected. I mean, I've always kind of had a goal of growing grip in Vermont. Because, as a state, I'd say we have a kind of a newer, younger strength sport background, if that makes any sense, compared to some places like maybe in Ohio or Texas. Like there hasn't been quite as much depth in Vermont, but it's growing quite a bit. And so definitely I've just always wanted to kind of see that participation grow. And I also just thought it'd be a good opportunity to try to bring some folks into the area and kind of show, highlight some different people we have here that I know are really strong, right? And that was kind of the reason why. And then, if we want to just kind of get into like where we had it. So we were lucky enough that Ian Curry at Doomsday Athletics was willing to have it hosted there. He's a good friend of mine. He and I have competed in strongman quite a few times over the years. And he did King Kong in 2024 when I hosted a venue for that. And he kind of told me then that he'd be interested in having a grip competition down at his place. And I thought it'd be a really good fit because it's more in southern Vermont, so a little bit closer to some of the other states in the region. So I thought it'd make it a little bit easier for people traveling in. And so that I think worked out really well. Ian's place is a great gym. Was a great place to host it, and he was a super welcoming host, and he also competed, which was great. Again, to some of the results as we go.
Real quick with that, like I said, I just want to ask you one thing real quick. This is kind of on the spot, but when it comes to like promoting strongman versus a grip competition, since you've kind of done both a little bit, do you kind of take the same approach with that, or is there anything that you do a little bit differently for grip than you do for strongman maybe? And that might be the difference in like the communities or venues. I don't know, or the turnout of people and the size. So, all those could be factors, but I wasn't sure if there was anything from a promoter standpoint that maybe is a little bit of a different challenge one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar. I would say definitely, like, especially when hosting a 5-event competition, because most of the local strongman comps, if you want to call them that, are also tend to be 5 events. So from that perspective, they're kind of similar. With grip, one thing that I think does make it a little bit trickier is how many of the events are max effort lifts, which those just end up taking more time when you're looking at laying out a competition. So when you're doing like a strongman comp, you generally will have on average probably 1 or 2 max events in the competition, and the other are going to be either timed for reps or speed events of some sort, right? Where you're doing like a run. And so you're able to get through those a lot faster than you are a max effort lift, just based on the nature of a competition, right? And having people at different strength levels and, as it goes on. The other thing is that for me with grip, especially being in a region where there's a lot of folks that are newer to the sport, I really prefer last person standing as the format.
Okay,
And for me, that's because if you don't have the exact handle that you're going to be lifting on the day, you can develop the strength for any of these lifts in the different disciplines, right? With like, there's all sorts of options you can use to develop that strength. But if you don't have the exact handle, if you're going to go into like a 4 event comp or a 4 lift format, it's a lot harder to know where you should come in if you don't have the equipment to train on or don't have experience lifting on those handles previously. Whereas in a last person standing format, it kind of negates that to a certain extent, right? Like obviously in a perfect world, you'd have every implement that you're going to be lifting on the comp, but that's not, that's really not a reality when in grip. But if you have if you've been training thick bar on, I'm just going to use some examples here, right? On an axle versus on a rolling handle or with thick handle dumbbells, there's technique differences. There's other things that come into play, but you can develop the hand strength that you need perfectly fine, in my opinion. And then if you have an event where it's last person standing, okay, you don't have to worry so much about trying to have the minutia of knowing when you're coming in, and it kind of gets rid of the risk of people bombing out if they just don't know the equipment that well.
Usually the only thing
that is the difference. That's okay.
It's a great answer. I mean, and I think it's good because our sport gets a lot of people from strongman too, and people that promote, that are going to be promoting on both sides, going into the future and things, and that might be something that maybe they mix some kind of timed event in, a timed hold, a hang. We've seen that a few times, pop up a little bit. So there's a lot of ways to approach it. But yeah, I think it's good that you brought up some of those extra points because it's stuff that I think maybe in the back of our heads, a lot of us might know it, but we're not actively thinking about it as we're, maybe selecting events or thinking about what we could do as a host. So
yeah, I mean the other thing I will say that is a little bit harder with grip. Harder might not be the right word, but it's something that I definitely put a lot of thought into in this comp and in other grip themed comps that I've run in the past. Is weight selection and weight of jumps. So it's generally a bit, there's a lot more data out there when it comes to like strongman, and certainly when it comes to the standard lifts, like you're talking about a deadlift, right? Basically any deadlift variation, it's pretty easy to figure out, okay, what are reasonable jumps that are going to be about in the right ballpark to not have the event go on for too long, but also be fair to most of the competitors in terms of, you don't want somebody having to do a jump that's like 25% of their max, right? Like, and so that's something that with grip also takes quite a bit of thought, in my opinion. It's like, okay, what's the right jump to, allow people to lift their best, have the best competition experience for everyone, and just have it be fair.
No, and that's a good thing too. With sometimes we have pretty good sized gap in experience level at these competitions too, where maybe there's like a beginner open class and other sports or other ways to kind of categorize people. So you're kind of going against somewhat equal groups, whereas it could be the day one person that wandered into the grip competition versus somebody that's been doing it for 15 years, and it's just going to be different. So, but still taking all that into account to make sure that the overall competition is going to run smooth, and that neither person's really going to get like held back or kind of messed up. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to get their chance to put the right stuff on the board and give their best numbers or whatever they can do that day. But yeah, it's just thoughts I have. Like I said, kind of rambling a little bit there about some of this stuff, but I don't know. It's just interesting when you break down competitions, how they unfold. So from there, I guess it's another thing we're talking about with events. you're discussing, the venue and leading into that a little bit. When you decided to do the Northeastern Regionals, what kind of event selection were you first thinking about, or how did that kind of get picked, I guess, in your head?
Sure. So I tried to pick events. Well, for one thing, I guess this does tie into a difference of strongman too, actually, now that you put it that way. So when you're hosting a strongman event, you're not allowed to compete in your own competition.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and the idea being that, especially in strongman, with the different event formats that you can choose, right? You could stack it so you'd have a pretty appreciable advantage. So actually,
I'm sure nobody's ever done that in grip. I'm sure no one's ever just picked events they're good
yeah,
at. No, I'm joking. I'm getting on some people because before I was in the sport, I heard, I've heard people bitch about it, and
really? Okay. I think it would be. I think it would be tougher in grip, right? It'd be a little bit tougher for sure. But
yeah, but I just heard people complain and say stuff like, oh man, that person only goes to this competition if these are the events, or they only host there, or
yeah,
they do
like
this.
cherry picking what events they're doing.
Yeah.
Fair.
Then they're going to show up when it suits them, and they don't do all the formats. But that's just something that it's part of the sport. It's going to happen, whatever.
It is. I think and when you're a competitor, right? That's a little bit. Yeah. I mean, certainly people can do that, and it's a little bit different to me. But as a promoter, I want to pick events that, one, I didn't have a long history of doing myself, and B, maybe that I'm not particularly good at. Were some of the selection criteria, but then also I knew, just in general, in my opinion, there's a pretty good format to having a solid grip competition in terms of the different types of events you're going to have. So I knew I wanted to have, a thick bar event. And it just seemed to me we saw a lot of 2-inch and smaller in the last year for the diameter of the thick bar events. So I kind of chose the 2 3/8 Napalm Nightmare based on that. Knew we wanted to have a pinch. I went with the 2-hand flask. Again, kind of similarly, I felt like we saw a lot of Saxon bar in the last year being in the area. Wanted to give an opportunity for people to lift on something a little bit different. And the other reason I chose those two as the thick bar and the 2-hand pinch variation is because it was going to be pretty close to King Kong, which is all one-handed lifts. So I kind of wanted to make sure we had a fair amount of two-handed lifts in this competition, kind of to, just break things up and have a little bit of a different lifting experience and highlight that.
That's another really good point. Is just, and this comes up sometimes in the sport too, with a lot of this stuff kind of growing and more competitions popping up on the calendar. Kind of carving out a format that isn't just going to be a complete duplicate, or, like you're saying, you're taking into account what other events are on that calendar, or actual competitions, but then what events those competitions are having within their, within their rules or whatever their event lineup is. And then you're kind of basing, hey, let's switch this up a little bit, or let's do this. And that way you're not almost, I don't know, I don't say oversaturating it, but I had that problem the last, probably about the last year and a half or so, maybe not the last 6 months as much, but before that, it seemed like there was about 6 or 7 competitions, and I kind of wanted to do all of them, but they all had an axle in them. And I'm like, I'm not going to do 7 max axle deadlifts. So I was like, if somebody had just put a Napalm Nightmare in one, or switched one to a rolling handle, maybe I would have done that lineup. But,
well, it's funny that the axle happened to me this past year. That was one reason why I really didn't want to put it in, is we had it a few times, and then there's a strongman comp I did that also had a max double overhand axle in it. So I did double overhand axle enough last year for, it was enough.
Yeah, and this stuff kind of comes and goes in waves. So no, I just like that you're taking into account that stuff, and it's a good blueprint for anyone that's looking to promote, or just things beyond okay, this venue, this is the rules. I'm going to do last man standing or whatever they choose, but what other competitions are going on and what are their event lineups looking like, and kind of that's going to help the lifters and really bring interest to the competition, and then just kind of diversify the schedule, really, from, burning people out, it just getting kind of stale with everything. So no, that's good. Yeah. Just keep going on with everything. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's a interesting thing that'll be good for people to hear.
Yeah, no worries. Third event was the mini inch pinch. I knew I wanted to have some sort of key pinch in, just because to me it does test something a bit different than I don't even know what I want to say, the normal pinch lifts. I find them a bit different, a little bit more technical. And I also wanted to have something that was a little bit more fair for people with smaller hands. I think that's something else that's really important to take into consideration, right? Like flask, not too bad, but 2 3/8 inch Napalm Nightmare, definitely, hand size is a big factor on that one. So I kind of wanted to have something that was on the smaller implement side to kind of, even that out. Fourth event was meat hook deadlift, the Datacorn meat hook.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too. I definitely wanted to hear this one.
Yeah, so I had them for a while. I never really used them, to be frank. I knew I wanted some sort of vertical bar. I also wanted to have something that would be really quite easy to judge. And I also wanted to have something that would be have the potential for going quite heavy.
Yeah.
Because I think that's, I like to kind of balance all, have some lifts that are technical, have some lifts that are going to challenge in other ways. But I do think there's a place for, testing specifically support grip in a fashion where it really tests, okay, let's test the overall strength of that support grip and see what it can do.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome explanation for that. It's just an event you don't hear much about it. And I know it'll rip some people's hands
as it
up,
turns
but
out, you can't. I've heard now you can't even buy them anymore, which is too bad.
oh, wow. Well, it's good you got a set though. I mean, at least before they.
Yeah. I don't know if I would put it in again just because of that in the future, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I think it was a fun event. It was definitely different, different for everyone involved. And also it is a pain tolerance event to a certain extent. And again, I guess maybe coming from the strongman background, I do think that's something that's important to test in athletic competition too. Like, just how much do you want that, and are you willing to, have your skin ripped to get that lift? And then the last event was a medley. So it was 21 different implements. A little bit different than some of the other medleys. It was kind of like 3 different themes through it. So the first was hub lifting. So we had hubs going from traditional hub plate lifting from 15 pounds up to 30 kilos. The 25 kilogram and the 30 kilogram were done on fixed hub adapters from Nemesis grips. Actually, they worked really well. And in my opinion, they really simulated like lifting a heavier hub lift from the floor on a plate, but without having to worry about plates falling off and other things that just are, might not be super conducive to a medley run.
Right. Yeah, you got to pick them up every time.
Right.
Could be flying all over if you added weight on them.
Exactly. Then a blob run. So that we went from half a 50 up through a half 100. And at the heavier end, we had a half 90, an SSE 47, an SSE 53, both of those from the Stanowich strength equipment, and then a fat man, half 100. And then a bunch of different pull-up variations. So there was a 2-handed 2 3/8 inch vertical bar one. So 2 of those to do. A 1-handed 2-inch hilt. Athletes didn't have to do it one-armed, but one-handed, which is a little bit of a different pull-up technique. A double thumb blaster.
Is that the one with like basically like full pronated grip? It's almost like one.
Yeah, it's a full pronated. Yeah,
and then you kind of have like the round kind of like steel on the backside for the thumb. Is that
correct?
Okay.
It's the same as a thumb blaster, but just longer.
Yeah,
so,
like just
so
a
double pronated.
Which
actually makes it quite a bit harder because I can do a pull-up with 2 thumb blasters. I cannot hit one on that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, with it being kind of fixed together, you can't really.
Exactly. For me, I'm personally, this is, obviously this is personal. Everybody's going to be a little different. For me personally, I'm much stronger in a neutral position with those sort of pinch lifts, doing it, double supinated or pronated. In my opinion, makes it quite a bit tougher. And then a rolling globe Napalm Nightmare pull-up handle. So
Those are interesting medley events too. I mean, medleys are always fun and usually the best part of every competition. Or oftentimes it's the thing people think are it's the coolest event to a lot of people is the medley. But it's also cool when somebody kind of mixes it up like that with I don't know, even just throwing in pull-ups and on different handles. That's something that I
well,
haven't
actually, it's
seen.
funny. It was actually your interview with Adam Glass that made me think about doing pull-ups because I think he was
Okay.
talking about how they should be included in grip competitions more, and I was like, yeah, it'd be kind of fun. And it didn't work perfectly. I think the pull-ups specifically, I would. It's tough to make the pull-ups really fair across the board,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. Like, obviously, there's a big drop off when it comes to body weight. Much harder for women competitors in general, right? Like to do full lockout pull-ups on some of those implements, um, but overall it went well. But I would definitely be something I don't know. I haven't quite figured out what I would do differently with pull-ups in a full comp in the future, but
Hmm.
I would do it a little bit differently.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a big part of these competitions too, is kind of just reflecting back on, hey, what worked, and then hey, what would I maybe adjust a little bit? So it's all just feedback basically in real time.
Oh, right. And like you
Um,
don't know until like you
yeah.
said, like something like that where we haven't seen a lot of it. You don't really know how it's going to go down until you do
Hmm.
it. Um, but yeah, so for other than the medley, the other events were all run as last person standing, um, limited to 10 trips to the platform, um, which is something that I throw in just because it can end up taking it can end up being a very, very long day if you don't have some sort of limit on that.
Yeah, somebody
Um,
just goes up there 25 times every 5 pound jump, I mean, that's kind of be excessive, but yeah, it can definitely drag out if people are lifting a little better than they think and they keep returning back up another
for sure. And
two
we
or
had a
three
few people
trips.
hit the 10 limit cap, which we'll touch on because some of it was pretty impressive.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then I think maybe as we go through each event, we can talk about what the weight jumps were too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to get into kind of talking about the turnout, what it was like when I don't know, just kind of getting ready to host it. People are signing up, and then boom, okay, you're can kind of just walk through those events or the turnout in general, or we can go event by event, whatever
Sure, yeah.
style.
We can start with the turnout, right? So there's 18 athletes total end up showing up. Good turnout. We had 6 different states represented, which I was really happy to see. People traveling up for it was great. Um, we had 14 men, 4 women competing. Um, so overall, I thought turnout was quite good, really, for the first time having won a competition like that in this area. Um, it was a super positive atmosphere. Like, couldn't say enough actually about that. Like all the lifters were fantastic. People really, they brought their A game, but they also were supporting one another, supporting the competition too, which is great. Like, I never expect athletes to hop in a competition and start helping with things, but there was a lot of that going on at this one, which is always good. And yeah, I mean, we had a few different weight classes represented. Um, but overall, I'd say, like with these sort of comps to me, I like looking at the overall results probably the most, just
Yeah, oh
because
no, for sure.
you end
Yeah,
up with
that
some
makes
smaller
sense. Yeah,
smaller
that
classes.
makes sense.
Um, but yeah, and in terms of, we also just had some folks there that were helping out. They're from the area. So I already mentioned Ian Curry and Doomsday Athletics, being willing to host us in a terrific venue. Jen Rosalie helped us out with plate loading throughout the day. And sorry, Jen, if I butchered your name. Joanna Hull was helping out with running the competition. For those that don't know, she's my mom and also a pretty experienced competitor at this point. Jasmine Averbuck Ferrari, she came and pulled. It was her first grip comp, and she also did the scorekeeping for me. Uh, she and I have, she hosts a lot of strongman comps, so we kind of help each other out a lot of different competitions that we run. And then 35 millimeter Lupins did the logo design. So those are just some of the key players that volunteered time or resources to make the comp happen.
Is that the competition shirt you're wearing right there?
Yeah, this is the competition
Okay,
shirt.
no, that's a cool design. I didn't even realize it. I knew it was a grip shirt, but I didn't pay attention until like you just brought that up, and I was like, oh man, like that's the region right there. Like, yeah, No, that's a cool design.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let her know. 'Cause, and then, do you want to jump into results for the different events? We
Yeah,
can,
no, that's perfectly fine. I mean, you kind of we'll break down kind of the names or who kind of did what throughout each event or any like highlights that kind of pop up for you. But yeah,
yeah,
anything that
definitely
stands
go
out.
through
But
like if folks are interested, like I posted the scores up on the grip board, so they're up there
Mhm.
under under the thread for the competition. I've got them here. Yeah, we can just go through, highlight them, and then I think go over some of the the top overall results.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, then that's kind of whatever pace or whatever style you want. Just kind of touch on, some of the bigger moments, big lifts, stuff that just kind of stood out, and just kind of summarize what went down really.
Yeah, so we started off with the Napalm Nightmare, like we said, the 2 3/8 inch handle. Um, so we ran 2 lanes for the competition, so a light lane and a heavier lane. Um, for the Napalm Nightmare, we were doing 5 kilogram jumps all the way through. Um, and so for the women's side, then first, the top of the event was Joanna Hull and Gwendolyn Johnson. They both pulled just over 95 kilos. And then Amy Stone and Jasmine Aberbuck were already tied at 75 kilos for that. And then on the men's side, it was definitely a pretty exciting moment. So Lucio
Mhm.
Batista uh, pulled 190.7 kilograms, which
Okay.
broke the weight class record for the 93 kilogram class. Um,
Yeah, that's a huge lift.
a huge lift,
Yeah.
and to be
That's
totally
good.
frank, he has well, for one thing, we did 5 kilogram jumps all the way through, so it wasn't a smaller jump to get him over that record level, right?
Mhm.
Um, and just the way he lifted it, I think he'd have more there on another day if if he takes another crack at that lift. I think he'll move that number up.
Oh, for sure. And I think if he starts training, I don't know what his training looks like, but I assume if he starts to compete more and kind of, I don't know, see some of these, if he starts to repeat certain events and he's been training it and it pops up, we're going to see those kind of same improvements. And, whatever he's deciding to pursue, he's not at his best right now, probably. It's only going to
I don't
get,
think
it's
he's
going
that.
to
Yeah,
evolve,
I don't think he's that right. Like
Yeah.
I think there's more there if he wants to go there again for another to move that up more. And then Jedd Johnson with the second highest lifting that at 175 kilograms, and then tied in third place for the men, Ian Curry and Big William Fabergé at 160 kilograms. Um, I'd say those were probably the most notable.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say those are probably the most notable lifts for the Napalm Nightmare for sure. Um,
What did what number did Todd hit again? I'm just curious on that. Because he came, I know he came in third, but I was trying to see.
I think he came. I think Todd actually came fourth on that event,
Okay.
but he came. He got 150.7.
Okay.
Which again, like I think it was his first time ever touching a Napalm Nightmare.
Yeah.
Um,
No, those like I said, those are just I mean, yeah, really good lifts, especially you get on the 2 3/8 handles, and it's going to change for every weight class and every style of lifter or whatever. But if you start getting on that thick of a diameter and you start getting up above, mid threes, high threes, and if you can get like to where Mustache Ninja and Jedd were, you get over 400 pounds on those handles. That's rare territory
for sure. I mean,
for
it's
those. Yeah.
there were yeah. Um, oh, and actually, I'm wrong. Todd actually came fifth on. Yeah, he came fifth on that.
Okay.
Fourth place was actually David Reynolds with 155
Okay.
kilograms.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. David Reynolds. Yeah. Strong dude.
For sure. So we had a lot of strong lifters for sure on the Napalm Nightmare. And then yeah, we can hop over to the Flask. So for the women's side, there was actually a three-way tie for first on this with Joanna, Jasmine, and Gwendolyn. Oh no, actually, I apologize. Gwendolyn came first at 55 kilos, and then a tie for second place on the flask with Joanna and Jasmine at 50 kilos each, and then Amy in third with 42 kilos. And then for men, this actually got pretty exciting. So there was a tie for first place, a three-way tie. So it was Lucio, Jedd, and Todd all tied for the highest lift on that with 97.4 kilograms.
Man, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
makes it interesting.
It definitely started to mix things up. And just so folks know, we were doing 2.5 kilogram jumps on this. So,
and were you kind of going with a percentage based scoring or like points or percentage based for?
No, sorry, we should have gone over that at the beginning, but no, this was strong.
It's fine. Yeah. Okay. So strongman scoring. Okay. Yeah. So that tie definitely,
so
definitely will come into play.
Yeah. Folks don't know. So that is one of the differences in strongman scoring, right? When you tie, you basically split all the points.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have, in this case, a tie for first, and there was 14 lifters, there's 3. Basically, you add up 12, 13, 14, the number of points that everyone would have had if they were first, second, and third, and you divide that by 3. That's how many points the lifters all get. So ties, if you tie, it hurts you quite a bit on points. But if you're able to get ahead of a tie, so like if there's a tie in third place and you're able to squeak into second, it actually really helps you on points. So it leads to some very dynamic scoring situations that can pop up, and they did in this comp. Like definitely the ties end up being pretty impactful. So those were all tied in first. In second, I think we had another tie, which we did. So Sam Mitchell and Ian Curry tied for second at 92.4 kilograms. And Sam actually ran out of attempts. That was his 10th lift.
Okay. Yeah. So that limit probably doesn't normally come into play too often, but
it definitely doesn't.
It's still there for a reason, and it could pop up, I guess,
Yeah, it popped up. I do think if Sam had another go at the flask, I think he would, because I think he was only a couple pounds off the weight class record for 83 kilogram men on that. The way he was lifting, he definitely would be able to push that up if he takes another crack at it. And then let's see here. In third place, then we had third place. There was another tie. It was David Reynolds and Cam Dennett tied for third on the flask with 87.4 kilograms. So.
Okay, yeah. Now I met Cam at was it Nationals? Yeah, Grip Sport Nationals this past year. So I got a chance to kind of hang out with him a little bit and talk. It's just funny because I'm like, every time you bring up another name, I'm like, oh yeah, man, that's a good lifter. Oh, that's somebody strong. Like, we talked about before the show, but yeah, you're still naming people that are popping up in my head. I'm like, man, okay, I know they were there, but it's just like reminding me kind of how stacked the field was.
It was a very strong field and a very strong 93 kilogram class, which I knew because I happened to be competing in it. But yeah. But yeah, some really strong lifters. So that, to me, those are all really great numbers on flask, especially when you take into account so Todd had never lifted on a flask before. Sam had never lifted on a flask before. I don't know about Cam. I think he had from conversations with him, but I don't know for sure. And even like Ian, I think he probably pulled on it twice before this. Mm-hmm. So, some really, really strong results from folks without a lot of experience on the kit.
Yeah. From there, was that I'm trying to remember the order. Did you go into the key pinch from there, or?
Yeah, mini inch was the next event.
Okay, yeah. I was just double checking kind of the way it was going. Okay, yeah.
All right, yeah. So mini inch pinch was next. So we were doing 1 kilogram jumps for this, which might not sound like a lot, but anybody who's had their hands on this particular implement, it's 1 kilo can make a big difference pretty quickly. So on the women's side, Joanna Hull had the winning lift for that event with 16.9 kilograms. Then Gwendolyn Johnson had the second highest at 14.9, and then a tie for third between Jasmine and Amy at 12.9 kilograms. And then the men's side, Jedd had the winning lift at 28.2 kilos. And then there was a three-place tie for second. So Sam Mitchell, myself, and Lucio all pulled 25.2 kilograms, which that actually just picked the 83 kilogram weight class record from Sam. So he, really, really solid lifting.
And you said this was his first competition for grip?
Yeah, it was his first. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So that's somebody at, kind of a somewhat lighter weight class or with potential to even go lighter that, it just seems like they already have like a natural, strong grip strength with, a little bit of training or a little bit of focus on it. It could,
for
be
sure,
another major figure in that weight class potentially.
For sure. I think he definitely has a lot of potential to, push numbers in that weight class and compete at a really high level for sure. I believe his background is in arm wrestling when I was talking to him. And he definitely, I didn't really know a lot about him before the competition, but he showed up and he pulled exceptionally well, in my opinion. And then for third, there was a tie for third as well. So Todd Eustace and Cam Dennett both pulled 23.2 kilograms. So yeah, so I think that covers most of the lifts on that. And again, a lot of these folks, it's their first time pulling on a mini inch pinch too. So
yeah, I still haven't competed on one. I mean, I'm aware of it, but I don't have a lift in the database on it. And I've done like, I don't know for like the number of competitions, at least on the grip sport database, I'm up there and like, as one of the people that have done the most competitions. There's like Jedd and Eric, and then maybe like Jason Dingy, Steve Millard, or like Jeremy Everding. There's like a few, but then I'm right there like 26 competitions or something. And I've done quite a bit, and I haven't even got a chance to come across it, And I have one in the garage, but it's not like I'm training on it. I probably wouldn't touch it or really break it out unless I had to.
Right. I didn't train on it until preparing for this competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun lift. I actually hope it does show up in more competitions because, like you were alluding to, right? It doesn't have a lot of competition history behind it for sure. When you look at the number of different comps that have run it, though, there's been a few the last couple of years.
I've seen it pop up. I know
I hope it pulls up more. To me, it's a real interesting key pinch in that it is it's very strict, might be the word I'm looking for, right? Because there's so little surface area that you're really only getting a little bit of the thumb and the index finger on it.
Yeah, and I know like the double shallow mini inch pinch was used like in North American, so that got like a little bit of traction and it's kind of been held. And then for this, I mean, for key pinch, I think those are real good events. And if there's ever a question of like kind of adding that like oddball miscellaneous lift into a lineup, that's another kind of go-to option that people could kind of do if they don't want to do finish ball or another hub lift or something. Like, well, that's those are options. So it's good to kind of I don't know, like you just said, you're mixing up these events and kind of keeping it interesting for people, but also certain events that maybe haven't been contested as much but need a little more. I don't want to use the word data, but it helps kind of giving us more history on like what's the standard or what are people lifting on this thing? Where do we stand? And the more info we get from these competitions, the better the more competitive those numbers get.
It just grows that understanding, right? It statistically makes things more significant, right?
Yeah.
I will say one thing to highlight on that, right, is I think Jedd actually had the second highest lift in the database on this after this competition.
I didn't know Jedd was such a key pincher. Yeah,
I was joking with him. I was joking with him a little bit about that on the day, actually. But yeah, he pulled really well on it for sure.
He probably has been secretly training key pinch and loves it more than anything. He's afraid to tell people that. He has a grip reputation to uphold. I'm just messing around with. with Jedd. But no, that's a good lift. And yeah, like I said, I don't have any reference for what I would do on it, but yeah, no doubt if Jedd's doing it and it's for the regionals there, whatever, you know, I'm sure that's right up there, and probably in any competition format, Jedd probably plays pretty well at it.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think, if you look at the database, there's been a few heavy hitters that have pulled on it, right? So you can kind of see, like, okay, like, you got a good realm for where where some of the lifts kind of stand. Um, yeah, I mean, just from seeing people pull on it and lifting it, I think anytime you get north of 50 pounds on that, it's,
Mhm.
it's a pretty good lift. So after that, we went to the meat hooks. So we actually ended up doing these to lockout as opposed to just going to the, over the 4-inch blocks. That was kind of a game day decision,
Mhm.
just based on the amount of time, really, to be totally frank, right? Just kind of looked at where we were running, time wise, and wanted to make sure we could still have 2 platforms to kind of let us get through things in a timely manner. So I kind of put it to all the different athletes as a vote, and everyone was okay with doing it to lockout. So that's what we did. And we were doing 20 kilogram jumps on that.
Okay, so that's some good jumps
no,
there.
not 20 kilogram. I'm sorry, 10
Okay.
kilogram jumps, 5
Okay,
kilograms.
so yeah, about 22 pounds or whatever, or
Yeah,
then
20
switching down.
pounds.
Okay, yeah, no, I got you.
My plates are in kilos. My brain still normally works in pounds. So apologies for that. But yeah, on the women's side, this was actually a real good battle for first and second place in this. Gwendolyn Johnson ended up pulling 161.15 kilograms on it. And I will just say, Gwen's definitely somebody to watch out for if she stays in grip. I mean, she's only, I think she's 16 right now.
Oh, okay.
So, very, very strong. And Joanna Hull in second place with 141 kilograms. And then Jasmine and Amy tying at third place with 111 kilos. Which is, it's pretty heavy on the meat hooks. I was looking and I wasn't able to find a junior record on them, but the masters women record that I could find was 150 kilos. So Joanna wasn't far off that at all,
Okay.
really. And she opened up her hand on her last attempt. So that kind of stopped that. And Gwen hit her 10 attempts on this. So
Oh man, yeah.
she could have potentially gone even higher than the 161.
Yeah,
For the men,
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Vince,
sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for anybody who's not aware of the meat hook deadlift, yeah, I'm sure if you look into like David Horn resources, or if you check it out, even if they're not for sale right now or whatever the case is, I'm sure there's some like images, or you could watch people that attended this competition if you're familiar with, some of the lifters, and kind of see maybe their training videos or see their competition footage, whatever it is. But yeah, they're basically just like 2 big metal candy canes. Would that be a
That's
decent,
a really good description.
just
To me,
meat
I
hooks,
kind of
but they're
describe
like,
them as like
yeah, 2 big, like,
thin
yeah,
pieces of V-bar, right? Basically, to
yeah,
me, like thin pieces of rebar that are bent down a hook. So you kind of put the hook over the bar, and then you lift it with the straight part of the metal, vertical. So it's kind of like a double vertical bar lift. Pretty thin, maybe a 1/2 inch diameter. If I don't
yeah.
just going ballpark.
But that's pretty common on these things. If you can picture, a real skinny, like just like steel, metal, whatever, V bar, and then the amount of weights that we're talking about here. I mean, people probably, I don't know how heavy they all got, but I think some of the lifts there you're already naming, like you said, 150 kilos or something. I mean, you're talking heavyweight for a piece of steel to be like just tearing down on your skin in that fashion. It's not like kind of, dispersed out, holding the bar the regular way for like a deadlift. It's pulling the skin
For
and hand and stuff a different way.
Yeah,
Calluses and everything.
it's a lot of pressure. Definitely a pretty high risk of skin tears, right? To be honest, a few of us tore them on this. And the other thing that I noticed is it actually they put a lot of pressure on your pulleys and your, for me at least, in my index and my middle finger, like
Okay,
on the
yeah.
one pulley specifically. It creates, just like you said, it's such a small surface area that you're trying to crank down on that it just creates a lot of a lot of torque. And the men's side got really exciting too. So, and this is kind of also like, I know you've mentioned this on the show before. This is one of those places where, like, when you just look at the scores, right, it doesn't quite tell the whole story of how things, went down and how exciting it might have actually been. So Jedd ended up with the highest lift on that for the men with 221 kilograms. Todd got 211 kilos. And that actually opened up his hand, and then he managed to get it so it stopped bleeding, and he wanted to have another go, but he decided if he was going to have another go, he wanted to be something good. So he jumped from it was 211 with the collars and the hooks, but effectively the bar weight was 210. He jumped from that up to 250 kilograms.
Okay, yeah, wow.
So
big jump,
a big old jump. And he lifted it twice. They just popped out of his hand at lockout each time.
Man,
so
that's wild. That could be a big difference maker too with that strongman scoring, just jumping. I mean, you wouldn't get the percentage points for jumping that big over other people, but it's still just possibly taking an event win would be good.
For sure. And again, like he came second, so he still pulled really well. But I think and I know this was the first time he was touching those, so I'm sure if he had a chance to prep on them, I'd actually be real interested to see what he'd be able to pull, because I know it'd be something pretty ridiculous. And then third place, there was a tie. Myself and Stephen Ferrari tied at 201 kilograms.
So, man, you guys are still 201 kilograms, you're still over 440 pounds.
Right.
On that.
Oh, that was one thing I wanted to highlight. So then behind that, there was a big tie at 191 kilos. So Sam Mitchell, Lucio Batista, Cam Dennett, and Mark, I'm going to butcher your name, Mark. I'm sorry. Mark McMahon.
I do it all the time on the show. I feel like I do it. Sometimes the bad part is I've also done it to the same names over and over again because they keep popping up, and I just haven't talked to them or heard someone say their name, so I got to keep saying their name, and I'm like, I don't know, but no, I'm sure that they'll know we're talking about them, and if anybody ever reaches out or hits us up, well, Vince doesn't have to do as much as me, but I'm on here. I'll fix your name if I ever mess anything up. Just reach out to me or whatever's easiest.
So to me, I was actually really shocked at how many lifters got up over 400 pounds on this lift. It's, to me, that's a pretty hard mark to get to. Like it.
Yeah, I mean, it really just, the strength to pull 400 off the floor in any fashion. I mean, it requires a pretty solid base level of strength. I mean, you have to stand upright and hold 400 pounds, whether it's a, deadlift bar or whatever. But you change the grip to a meat hooks or something. It's
it gets a lot harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think out of the 14 guys, I think 8 of us pulled over 400.
No, that's real solid. Yeah.
So real solid lifting on the meat hooks. And again, a few of us did open up our hands. Luckily, nobody got hurt, too badly. But yeah, so it was a real exciting event for both the women and the men. It was super exciting, and kind of people were definitely pushing each other in terms of getting points on the board. So
you have to be a little strategic towards the end too. With some of those jumps, they're probably like, do I go 10 kilos? Do I, how much do I want to jump somebody by? Or if you try to sit out, let me see if they miss, and I'll kind of save mine, go up above, or then I'll jump in if they miss and kind of, get that point on the board right there or pass them in that placement. But that's part of the game too, not only kind of measuring yourself as you're climbing up in your attempts, but hey, what are they taking? Are they sitting out? Are they taking this? And then if you see them miss, it's depending on how close you are to that person. That's a good time to jump in. If you got it in the bag, just hit that rep and then climb from there. Anything else is extra, but you got your placing, secured.
For sure. I mean, it was real tough because a lot of us were so close, right? That it was one of those things where there were definitely some tactics, but I'd say it was also one of those just trying,
yeah.
Sometimes that goes, I just got to lift because we're already in PB land and I don't know if I'm going to get another jump up. So it's like I got to try to at least tie them, right? So it was real exciting. The last thing that I wanted to highlight on this was I actually put a little bit of cash on the barrelhead for both women and the men, whoever had the highest body weight pound for pound meat hook deadlift. So Sam Mitchell actually had that. Again, he pulled 191 kilos, weighed into the 83 kilogram class. And then Amy Stone had that for the women with her lift.
It seems like a well-rounded pack too. It's not just the same names that keep popping up for this.
No,
So, you know,
there's
for
a lot of
different things.
back
Yeah.
and forth, and a lot of a lot of folks, mixing things up for sure.
Yeah, it's always a good sign. Like, I mean, a lot of times we do recaps. It's like, oh, you know, this person had a sweep. This person had a sweep. They won everything, and then you kind of break it down to these different lifts or different weight classes sometimes, and it's interesting to see different names kind of keep popping up, and especially when they're newer faces to the sport. So, yeah, that's
For sure.
good sign of a great competition for sure.
And then so the last event was the medley. So 21 total items. So Joanna Hull came first on the medley for the women with 6 different implements. Then Jasmine and Gwendolyn tied with 4, and then Amy had 3. And then for the men, this got real exciting. Got really exciting. So Lucio had the best run. He cleared all 21 implements, and he did it in incredible style. I will just say it was one of the, it was not being hyperbolic. It was one of the most impressive athletic feats I've witnessed in person. So, he cleared all the hubs up to the, including the 30 kilogram hub. And he told me that he doesn't really practice hub lifting. So that's pretty, and folks were having to do this traditional style. So I had said, like he allowed people to do the thumb hook thing. I don't exactly know what to call that, but you couldn't lift it doorknob. It had to be a claw, no matter what way you put the thumb on.
I'm sure he did well with the pull-up variations too.
Oh yeah, he did that.
That's right in his wheelhouse.
So he cleared the hubs, cleared all the blobs, and then he did all the pull-ups. And for the one-handed hilt pull-up, he didn't just do it one-handed. He did a legitimate, like from a full dead hang, one-armed pull-up on it.
Yeah.
And then he did after he was done, he did I believe it's called a lache, all the way down the rig, basically swinging from pull-up station to pull-up station, letting go and grabbing him back after. So it was just super, super impressive. Then after that, Jedd had the second best run. He cleared 18. If I remember correctly, he cleared all of the blobs. He cleared all but the 30 kilogram hub. And then I think he did all the pull-ups other than the double thumb blaster and the one-handed hilt. Pardon me. So again, a super impressive run. Because I think, not to derail the conversation at all, but I think that's the other thing that's important for folks that haven't done a medley at the end of the competition. It's very different to do these feats after you've done 4 other events.
Yeah.
And even
especially
more
when the meat hooks were that heavy. I mean, I know it's a different grip, but still, I mean, you're throughout the day, you're getting up there heavy enough to tax your body. Your grip's obviously getting hit because you're doing max lifts on everything up to that point. And then, now you got to rattle all this stuff off in basically you're blitzing it, item after item. And
right. So you're doing it under speed, you're doing it under pressure. So like any of these at the upper end of both the hubs and the blobs are, I would say very challenging feats, right? A fat man blob, 30 kilogram hub, even a 25 kilogram hub, they're not easy implements to lift. So Jedd had a real solid run, 18 of the implements. And then there was a tie for 3rd place on the medley. Andrew Kiro and Ryan Tumblety both got 17 of the implements. A little bit different breakout, if I remember correctly, Andrew cleared all of the hubs. Pretty impressive. And then and Ryan, who from my conversation with him, he's never actually trained blobs. He cleared up through the SSE 47 on the blob run.
That's solid. That's good.
Yeah, first time. Yeah, I wish I was lifting the SSE 47 the first time I touched it without training blobs. I'll put that out there. And he also got the 25 kilogram hub. So really solid medley run from both of them for a tie in third place. And then if we just look at the kind of the overall scoring, right? On the women's side, it was actually a tie between Joanna Hull and Gwendolyn Johnson for first place. So that went to a tiebreaker, which was a nickel inch pinch.
Okay.
Which for no, like, I like having that as a tiebreaker. And the other thing that I do in a comp is I publish what the tiebreaker is going to be.
Okay. Yeah.
So everybody's kind of aware of it going into it. I don't think anybody has ever trained the nickel inch pinch. So I don't think, like, I know for a fact neither of them ever have because, talking to them after. For those that haven't done it, it's literally basically take a nickel, cut it in half, and that's what you're pinching and trying to lift with. I've actually used it in quite a few comps that I've run as a tiebreaker just because there's no real risk of injury at all from it. It's a light lift, even if it's not easy because the pinching surface is so small. But it's light. It tends to go pretty fast.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I use it as a tiebreaker. So the two of them went at it on that, and Joanna ended up being the victor, pulling 1 kilogram more than Gwendolyn. I think with 5.5 kilograms, and Gwen got 4.5 kilos. Looking at this. Which is pretty solid on that, to be honest. So Joanna Hull ended up being the overall women's champion for the regionals, and then Gwendolyn Johnson came second, and then Jasmine Averbuck came third, and Amy came fourth. For the men, again, kind of as we were going through this, right, we were talking about it. There were a lot of ties, so the points, there's a lot of mix-ups in the points, which was great. Led to a real exciting competition. A lot of ups and downs in terms of how people were scoring. Jedd ended up coming first, and so pretty cleanly. And I think in strongman scoring, it also shows how important consistency is across everything. And if you're able to stay up, in first, second, consistently through all the events, you'll end up, that format definitely favors that kind of approach to a competition. So Jedd Johnson ended up coming first, so being the champion of the Northeast Regionals. Lucio Batista came second. Again, super strong performance. Definitely think we'll be seeing a lot more of him coming up here in the future.
He had a real good year. I mean, this year watching him compete, I mean, he's just real good. I mean, every competition he did, I don't know. I feel like he knocked down some kind of record, or at least put people on notice.
I didn't know him until meeting him out at Shaw, and that was very impressive getting to meet him out there and watch him lift. So, I'm sure we'll be seeing him do more and more impressive things as this next year and future years for sure. Todd Hustis came third. Again, his first grip competition, first time touching, I think, any of these implements. So super strong showing. And then I do just want to highlight Sam Mitchell came fourth. So again, for an under 83 kilogram lifter, again, it was his first time as well. Really solid performance. And that takes care of all the results, I think.
Okay, yeah. So with most of the results there, I know we kind of already hit on a couple times where we'd mentioned what would you adjust maybe in another competition, or hey, this is something for this format that was easier or tougher, whatever. I know in general the regionals might bounce around. Are you interested in hosting the regionals again next year, do you think? Or is that something that you might try to talk to someone else in the area and maybe kind of let them do it? Or, and I know maybe the decision process isn't that clear cut, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot now. I'm just saying,
No,
like,
no. I
you
think
have
that's,
interest in the future to
yeah.
kind of, repeat this or, do, something else
Um,
similar or, for the area.
yeah,
I just want to sure.
for sure. No, I mean, I would definitely be interested in hosting it again in the future. I like the idea with the regionals about moving around to different locations because I think you're going to get a different pool of lifters. You're going to get,
Hmm.
I mean, you kind of see in this, right? We had a bunch of, a whole bunch of new lifters, all who, even if they're named in, we're talking about the top lifts, they all performed really well. Um, and I think having some of the regionals kind of move around really then gets the benefit of having people who are closer to those, wherever it's specifically being held that year, having the opportunity to come lift in it, hopefully get some exposure to, grip as a sport. And you'll find, I think we'll continue to find some really strong lifters that way too, as well as, just, continuing to grow the sport. So so yeah, long story short, I would definitely be interested in hosting it again. I haven't put my hat in the ring yet for next year as a potential promoter. But I definitely wouldn't be opposed to it if, no one else from the
Hmm.
Northeast is stepping forward for it. But
Yeah.
I do really like in the concept of the regionals having it move around.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I agree. It's a good thing. You kind of just build the region up as opposed to maybe just one pocket or something, or
yeah, yeah.
um
Um, I also think it's cool seeing kind of what different promoters bring in terms of what sort of event selection they do and how they want to run it. I think it's because, well, you kind of mentioned earlier, but I think it's important to see people lift in all different types of competitions as well.
yeah,
I
no,
think there's something to be said for kind of like the breadth, right? Not just like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Because if you get a certain region that maybe just favors a certain style of lifting and the same people kind of keep doing that, or maybe they gravitate towards it, it kind of, I don't say it boxes itself in a bit, but it is good to sometimes just kind of be like, hey, I don't have to think about what the events are. I just want to show up and lift. And then, okay, maybe it's not the best event lineup for you, but you're doing something different. You're gonna improve from it. It's all experience for the sport and other competitions. So I like it. I don't know. Maybe I'm one of the weird people in the sport that I kind of like it sometimes when the events are events I suck at, and I kind of just continue to train stuff I'm good at, and I kind of work on those weaknesses. And I'm like, hey, I don't, let's say I have less pressure on me if it's not a event that I'm more like tailored to do well at. But sometimes you're just kind of like, hey, I really don't have anywhere else to go but up with this lift. I might as well just kind of, train it hard, work on some of these weaknesses, and go do it. And you don't have that
For sure.
expectation of, I'm going to set this record or I'm going to do this. And it's like, just go lift,
For sure. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the way I look at it too. Like there's a lot, I mean, not that I'm at a super high level on most of the grip lifts, but there's certain things that I'm definitely naturally pretty strong at, and there's some that I am definitely not. And if they're not in a if they're not in a competition, if it's something that I don't enjoy training, it's going to be less likely to train that, right? I think that's human nature.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
similar to what you were saying. I like it when there's something I haven't done before or that is going to challenge me in a comp because it makes me train it. And generally speaking, right, if you have something that's like a lagging weakness compared to your other lifts, if you bring that up, it most likely will carry over to the things you're good at anyway, because you're going to
Mhm.
be bringing up a weak part of your training, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, in the long run, I think it's better that way for me, or that's what I kind of like. So we talked about potential, promotion of event in the future, but as a competitor, next thing up, whether it be strongman, grip sport, what's next for you as just a lifter yourself?
so as a lifter, so I've got, I actually just signed up. I know Trey is hosting a grip competition up in Montreal in the beginning of February. Um, so I just signed up for that. Gonna go up there and do that because it looks like a fun event. And then I've got a strongman comp. Actually, Jasmine Averbach Ferrari, who did the scorekeeping and competed in this, she's hosting one at the end of February up in Williston, Vermont, called Abominable Swole Man,
Okay.
which is it's a fun competition every year. So anybody in this area that's looking for a fun strongman comp to hop into, I really recommend looking into that one. So I'll be competing at that one, and then I'm going to be doing the Arnold for arm lifting again this year.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, man.
That's the start. That's the start of the year, which is probably more than enough.
No, yeah, that sounds like a solid start. And I said at least you already kind of have it mapped out. So no, yeah, best of luck. Future competitions that you promote, and then also as a competitor and lifter as well. Just thank you for doing the show. Thank you for kind of taking the time to
No, thank yeah.
give the spotlight to some of the lifters and just kind of talk about the event and kind of some behind the scenes stuff for it. So I don't know. I just always like getting as much information about these things out. And, if people watch it, they watch it. If they don't, they don't. But it's always going to be there. It's always going to be documented. And, I think that's just a big portion of the sport and kind of getting it to other people or just having resources out there. So, no, I really appreciate you doing the show. And, yeah, anything you'd like to close with or any, last words for the show. But yeah, that's really about it.
No, I mean, I think I just want to say thank you, Zach, for having me on, inviting me to do this. It's great to get to showcase some folks and the excellent lifting they're doing. I want to thank all the athletes who came out to the competition, especially folks who it might have been their first time doing a grip competition. And for some folks, maybe their first time doing a strength competition in general. It's never easy to hop into. And, I think once you do one, you'll probably end up wanting to do more. At least that's how most folks, it seems to go. So if there's anybody out there that's kind of on the fence, I would definitely encourage them to throw their hat in the ring and give it a shot. It's a fun sport to get into, and it's a growing sport, which is always exciting.
Yeah, well, with that, like I said, if you guys are in that northeastern region, or particularly around the Vermont area, or are you based like southern Vermont? You said is that?
I'm actually more in central Vermont, northern Vermont. But
yeah, and that was down south.
I kind of end up all over
I got you. So yeah, but if you guys are ever up in that, kind of northeastern region up that way, anybody that was at this competition, you could try to reach out to, get in touch with, or just you see the names, you're just starting to become more aware of who's in your area or what kind of future events you can attend. So, thanks Vince for doing this, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the future, whether it's in person lifting or something, or doing another recap or something that you might host yourself or however it comes up. But yeah, no, solid work as a promoter and lifter, and I'm sure we'll be talking at some point again in the future. So thanks.
For sure. Thank you again, Zach.